Folks, what's up? Welcome to the Forbidden Land podcast. It's been a nice, chill, honest, hard labor style, chill, cheap, fun, exciting, optimistic week. Not much has been going on. Oh my god, the stock market is dead. Oh my god. What happened? 805 billion gone from the stock market today? How could this have happened? I mean, but surely it can't get any worse than that, right? Oh shit. Oh no. 900 billion wiped out in one day. Oh man. That sucks. How could this have possibly happened? I mean, we're at peace with everyone right now. Everyone loves us. I mean, how could this have possibly happened? Gosh, that really sucks, you know. But, you know, I wasn't invested in the stock market. I don't have a retirement account right now. I don't know. Surely it's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't affect me personally right now, right? Surely it can't get any worse. What the fuck? Oh man, no way. Gas is $2.60. My god, man. What a week. Gosh, dude, the stock market's dipping. Gas prices have gone up, but surely it won't stay that way, right? Oh, what the hell, man? So much breaking news. The Department of Energy is warning that gas prices aren't likely to come back down to pre-war levels. Now, would you look at that? Man. What are we going to do? The war in Iran is not going well. America overplayed its hand again. It seems that this is not a cakewalk like Trump thought it would be. This isn't a mission that they can. He wanted to pull a George Bush, except the difference is that George Bush had people that knew what they were doing, so they could pull off their illegal invasion in a swift manner and not fuck it up immediately. Because here's what we did. We went into Iraq. We found Saddam Hussein. And what did we do after that? We didn't leave. We stuck around. We took out Saddam Hussein and then we stuck around. And then we left after like 10 years, almost. And then another problem emerged. We went back in, wiped it out. And at the end of the day, we left Iraq destabilized. With Iran, we took out the supreme leader, right? But then, after that, we end up losing troops. Iran keeps firing back. They've shown no sign of giving up. And now they've chosen a new supreme leader. The Iranians have chosen another Khamenei, the supreme leader's son. The U.S. has just totally fucked this up. Like, not only is the invasion illegal, it's gross. We didn't need to do it. It's a waste of taxpayer money. We're doing this for Israel. We're doing this for Trump's hubris and his legacy obsession. We also just didn't achieve the goal that we went in with. I mean, they're still running the place. They're still going. We didn't even achieve the one goal of regime change. And honestly, Trump has indicated he doesn't even care about regime change. He's indicated that he's just doing this to do it, basically. He got the boss call from Israel, and he's just doing it just to do it. Lockheed Martin might have also slipped up and, exposed that they knew about this invasion months in advance. That this isn't just a spur of the moment war where Israel goes, oh, shoot, guys, we just found out this crazy information that Iran's going to strike us. That this was actually a planned attack, that we went into negotiations with Iran, knowing that we were going to invade them long before the negotiations started. So, Lockheed Martin knew. Here's how much Trump respects the people that have died for Israel. Here's how much he respects them. My sound. Is there no sound on this? That's crazy. Look at that ridiculous ass hat. Look at that. If Obama did this, remember when Obama one time saluted a guy while he was holding something in his hand? And the media lost its damn mind. They lost their mind. This man's in a fucking trucker hat. He's in a trucker hat. Bro, take the damn thing off. I hate that there's no sound on this. It makes me feel so awkward and vulnerable and gross. Take the fucking hat off. This person says, imagine Obama wearing a cap to pay respect to fallen soldiers. Fox News would have brought back slurs from the 1800s that were thought lost to history. Exactly. Now, as the war rages on and we've spent more and more money on it and wasted our time, and the Supreme Court's at an all-time low of confidence, and the president's approval rating is dipping further and further, and, with all this Iran stuff, all of the stuff in Venezuela, all of the uncertainty, all the ICE stuff, the government shut down a few months ago. All of this is not a good look for Donald Trump. None of this is a good look. And I think a lot of people's confidence are waning. But people are still going to bat for him. Here's Senator Kevin Cramer from North Dakota. And what he thinks about the war in Iran.
Iran? I find it confusing.
You are?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there are several good reasons for us to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities. First of all, because they're willing to use it.
There was an Iran nuclear deal signed in 2015.
Yeah, thank God we got out of that. Yeah. Remember, here...
I still don't understand. Like, what's the reason that Republicans hate the Iran nuclear deal other than the fact Obama's the one that got it done? What was the reason that they hated it? Iran didn't make a nuke because of it. Would they have rather Obama had gone and bombed Iran into the Stone Age? What the fuck? It's just because getting rid of the deal just gives them a reason to destabilize the region further. That's literally it. So ridiculous. All these Republicans are all single brain organisms, one track mind. It's really just nuts. They just say shit, and then journalists just don't push back. He goes, thank God we got out of that. She just is like, next question. Ask him why. Ask him why he doesn't like the Iran nuclear deal. I just want to. These people never ask them the right fucking questions.
Agreed to a deal that allowed Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
No, they didn't.
Thank God we intervened in that. And they were on their way.
Is he stupid? What? Is he dumb? I mean, yes. What is he talking about?
No, they weren't. And,
Yeah, they were. They were licensed to have to enrich to a level that would allow a nuclear weapon.
No, they weren't.
Insane.
The U.S. Republicans kept saying they almost have a nuclear weapon. They almost have a nuclear weapon. It's not true. They don't have a nuclear weapon. And I have one question.
Thank goodness they don't. And
does
I think
Israel
it's a
have
good idea
nuclear weapons?
Listen, the United States and Israel are ironclad partners. We need them in the Middle East. We need them to be strong. We have a biblical responsibility to them as well as an allied responsibility to Israel. We should never sever that relationship, particularly to the benefit of killers like Iran.
Well,
Is that your office?
Iran.
Is that the flag right there?
This guy says we have a biblical responsibility to Israel. And here he is, a U.S. senator, with an Israeli flag outside his office. So,
Kevin Kramer.
for Senator Kevin Kramer, what the F? Are you representing the interests of the U.S., where the vast majority of the American public don't want a war with Iran? Or you're representing Israel because we have a biblical obligation? That's insane and dangerous.
True. Preach. Preach. Yeah, I don't understand why Republicans have such a huge issue with the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, where it sends in inspectors to monitor their nuclear development. And if they do enrich stuff, it's not for nuclear weapons. It would be for like nuclear power. That's why they hate it. It's the oil lobby that hates it, and it's Israel that hates it, because this is the greatest projection of all time. Is that, oh my God, can this garage door shut the fuck up? Israel developed a nuclear weapon in secret. They conspired with the French they helped the French create nuclear weapons. And then they took all that and developed their own nuclear program underground. The U.S. knew about it unofficially, kept it off the record. They knew about it. They wouldn't do anything about it because they held the U.S.-Israeli relationships as sacred. God, why am I so whistly today? Remove my fucking teeth. The U.S. and Israel, God, have like this fucking super PAC of friendship. And so the presidents and the administrations would just keep it a secret. But it was obvious that Israel has a nuke. I don't think the American government has still come out and acknowledged that Israel has nukes, but it's illegal for Israel to have those nukes. They're not signed on to any kind of nuclear pact with other nations like we are. And it's just the ultimate projection. They're like, oh, well, we have nukes, but Iran can never be allowed to have a nuclear bomb. If Iran had a nuclear bomb, this war wouldn't be happening right now. We would have shied away from it. Lindsey Graham seems to be pretty deep in this shit. He's paid, $4.6 million by AIPAC. By the entire pro-Israel lobby, all of the Israeli donors. That's who pays him. And according to the Wall Street Journal, Lindsey Graham traveled several times to Israel in the last few weeks, met with members of the country's intelligence agency, And he said, they'll tell me things our own government won't tell me. He also spoke with the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Why is a sitting U.S. Senator from South Carolina flying to Israel to meet with who I assume is like Mossad and all those people, the intelligence officers, meeting with them, meeting with the Prime Minister, and discussing a potential war with Iran? Why is he? What is that? What do South Carolinians get out of that kind of representation in the Senate? What do you guys get out of that? I mean, you get to spend an extra $1.50 on gas now. That's pretty nice, right? I'm glad you got that. Aren't you glad that your gas is like $1.20 more than it was a week and a half ago? Isn't that awesome? That's the kind of representation that Lindsey Graham is bringing to the state of South Carolina. That your gas prices fire through the fucking roof. That all you diesel truck drivers now got to pay like $5+ a gallon for your diesel. Isn't that awesome? Don't you love that? Apparently, the elderly Democrats are getting pissed off. Older Democrats are sick about hearing, quote, generational change, end quote, according to Axios. Yeah, we are sick of the old Democrats in the party. They have no stake in the future. They have zero interest in the future. And they don't have the mental faculties to keep up with the times. How come every couple of years Republicans find the new like super white supremacist to run their movement? They find some like super white person to run the show. And then the Democrats are like, here's geriatric decaying corpse representing New York who's going to wobble up to the mic, decay in front of you and go, we're going to pee on the floor. And then, I guess you'll get your money someday. We need to give more money to Israel. That's the Democratic response. Every time. The Republicans find, fucking super Hitler every couple of years, and the Democrats come out and go, well, I mean, best I can do is invade another nation, stab a baby, give more money to Israel, and then say I love gay people, and all of a sudden all of you love me. I'm like 93. That's how the Democrats are. It's so insane that they're talking about like it's pissing them off that people want new blood in the party. Yeah. Here's speaking of the person I was parodying, by the way, well, the best I can do is reopen the government when we have all the cards in our deck. Here's what Chuck Schumer has to say about the war in Iran. And by the war in Iran, I mean, here's what he has to say about his favorite place to go on earth, his favorite country, not America.
But I have many jobs as majority leader, as the first Jewish.
He's also not the majority leader. This was filmed in February of this year, folks. He is not the majority leader. Don't know why he said that. I really don't. But he is not the majority leader. He's very obviously the minority leader. Holy shit. One of the worst advocates I've ever seen.
Majority leader ever. And one is to fight for aid to Israel, all the aid that Israel needs. I will continue to fight for it. And we delivered more security assistance to Israel, our ally, under my leadership than ever before. We will keep doing that, everybody. It is so important.
It's times like these, you've got to ask yourself, where is this level of passion or any domestic issue? Any domestic issue. Where is this passion at? You go, hey, Chuck, are you going to let homeless people actually eat this month? You get their SNAP benefits, or are you going to let the Republicans keep cutting that? He goes, well, I'm going to call Donald Trump a jerk on the Senate floor. I'm such a bad boy. And then you go, hey, Chuck, you going to give that money to Israel? And he goes, well, I got to say, our best allies in the region are definitely Israel, and I'm going to keep affirming my commitment to sending them weapons, and we're going to keep sending them weapons because they're our greatest ally in the region, and I love Israel, and I'm the first Jewish majority leader, and as that leader, I've been responsible for sending more aid to Israel. Like, dude, come on. Do you just, I know you just don't care, but come on. At least, pretend like you care. You see him, dude, I swear to God, it's like Trump blows a child into 5 million pieces and then does that 159 more times. And Chuck gets on the Senate floor and goes, we're going to give the president a spanking. And also, and then it's like, he comes to this conference and he's like, well, I just really love the state of Israel. I know everything about their way of government and their way of life. And I really do support everything they do. And, we're going to go after all their enemies for them and do everything for them and give them even more money. Dude, what? Why are you doing this? Dude, that money better be good. That Israel money better be fucking great. He's willing to murder children indirectly. Actually, directly at this point. Because our own government launched a Tomahawk missile into that elementary school in Iran. Let's see. So, speaking of how useless Congress is, Congress has not approved any part of this war. They haven't, but they've out loud been like, yeah, do it, Mr. President. They're like, we can't call it a war because we didn't authorize this, but we're not going to do anything about it. They've already voted down the War Powers Act. And the executive branch then sells 20,000 bombs to Israel in an emergency sale. Bypassed congressional authorization. So, Congress is effectively useless now. They don't do anything. This is why I said last week, Congress and the Supreme Court are useless entities if the president's just going to be given full permission to do whatever he wants. He has control of both branches with his party, and yet still he goes past all of them and does his own shit. Folks, breaking news as usual. Israel has been pummeled by Hezbollah in Iran. This is the largest escalation in the strikes yet. And this leads into the topic I had written down before I learned of this. Um, while the Iran war rages on, and IDF soldiers are dying in this conflict. The U.S. is dying in this invasion. U.S. soldiers are dying during this unjustified invasion of Iran. Israel goes, you know what we need right now while we're losing the war in Iran? To bomb Lebanon. And so they send evacuation orders to the Lebanese people living in the south part of Lebanon to leave their homes. They have given these orders to these guys, to these people living there, multiple times. Multiple. Israel can't help itself. And they send a warning out. People, some people do leave. Other people rightfully stay in their homes. When another nation gives you an order to evacuate your home, you have every right to stand your ground because it's your home. And so they missiled it, killing 400 Lebanese people, with like a few IDF soldiers dying in the process. And, as a result of this, I have footage of, apartment buildings being bombed, Beirut being bombed. They claimed that it was to search for an IDF soldier who went missing like 40 years ago in Lebanon. To go in and murder multiple people. To go in and murder hundreds of people in searching for the body of an IDF soldier who went missing in South Lebanon 40 years ago. Psychotic behavior. Illegal behavior. If I had my say on it, this would be illegal. And in retaliation for this, Hezbollah and Iran have struck Tel Aviv. This is one of the largest escalations in the war so far from Iran. This is a harder hit than they've ever dealt to Tel Aviv. What this is showing is that, one, it's taken them this long to break through the Iron Dome. But two, it shows to the world that Israel and the U.S. are really bad at defending Israel. Really bad at it. That it only takes less than 2 weeks to put a dent in the Iron Dome. Only less than 2 weeks? They're scrambling so bad that they're taking THAAD out of South Korea and putting it in Israel. You hear that, South Korea? The U.S. said, fuck you. We're taking this shit to Israel, which you should have expected at this point. And, this combined with the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is standing its ground, surprisingly. Not that surprising, but this isn't Iraq. This isn't Afghanistan. This isn't a country that's been, ripped to shreds for decades by the U.S. and its allies. This is a country that has had 50 years to build up to this moment. 50 years. This is a serious deal. There's a reason why this operation is taking longer than Trump thought. And so let's rewind. Before all of this, at the beginning of the week, Israel decided, it's a really good idea to blow up a oil depot in Iran, in Tehran specifically. So here's a photo of that oil depot on fire. Here are the consequences of something like this, is that this will now go up into the atmosphere, cloud over the city, and then rain down toxic oil all over the 9 million people living in Tehran. Not only will this raise your gas prices, they're using your tax dollars to do it, paying your taxes to raise your gas prices. Isn't that awesome? Here's some footage, because we really need to talk about this one. This one should be a war crime. It should be a war crime to shower 9 million people in oil. Here's some footage of the burning oil facility. I mean, this was an insane explosion. This was a huge escalation from Israel. It's stuff like this that got Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz. And here's a series of photos and videos of the morning after the strike. Because this shows you the real consequences. Here's the dark oil cloud that shrouds over Tehran. Right here, here's this guy's car covered in oil from the explosion. Now, let me remind you, Tehran's a pretty beautiful city. I've used photos of Tehran in thumbnails before. That was the first time. I believe I used it in the episode where I talked about the 12-Day War. But I've also used it in, like, the last time I talked about Iran 2 years ago as well. Because it seems like every year I have to talk about Iran. I've used photos of Tehran in thumbnails. Tehran's a pretty place. Let me pull up one of my old thumbnails. Because, Tehran's a nice looking place. And it's really sad. The way that Israel just wants to turn everything into, like, garbage, mush, gunk. Here's a photo that I used in a thumbnail a couple years ago of Tehran. Look at that, man. Huge mountains in the back. Behind this mountain range is a large body of water. Iran has a really unique set of geography, like this is one of the more green areas of Iran that gets lots of rain. You can see the snow caps of the mountains in the back. I mean, this is a pretty city. And now contrast it with this video of that same city. I gotta quit whistling through my teeth, man. This is really bad. See that gap? It hasn't gotten any bigger. I've probably been doing this my whole life and I haven't even realized it. Yeah. It's so sad. But this is what Israel does. Israel comes in and makes everything a mess and uninhabitable just because they can. Because you're a perceived enemy of theirs. Here's oil flooding the streets of Tehran. And so there's a CNN reporter in Iran right now. And he's on the ground. I mean, I'm pretty sure he lives there. So here's a reporter that's in Tehran.
This is what Tehran is waking up to this morning. The sky above the city is covered in very thick black clouds. You can see that everywhere. That's the west of the city over there, and this is the north of the city. Normally, if you look to that direction, you could actually see the Alborz Mountains, but now all of that is also covered in clouds. That comes after major airstrikes in the south and the west of the city happened last night, where oil installations were hit, oil storage facilities. Apparently also a refinery might have been hit as well. And now you can see this morning that the sky is still very dark. We saw thick black plumes of smoke in the sky yesterday. There were massive fires in the south of the city. But I want to show you something else, because it's also raining. But you can see that the rain water is actually black,
Oh.
also saturated, it appears, with oil. And then if we look over there, you can see that the water that's running down here also is black. So that's what's coming down this morning.
Wow.
This sort of oil-filled rain that we have right now on the Iranian capital after those strikes took place.
Think about that, man. They've just basically destroyed the lives of millions. Because they want to destroy Iran. Israel wants to destroy Iran. Yeah. People wonder why Greta Thunberg became an anti-war activist. It's because war is inherently tied to environmental disaster. War has worsened carbon emissions in our atmosphere. You know, they said that the bombs that Israel was dropping on Gaza were creating massive amounts of a carbon footprint, of emissions, just poisoning the atmosphere in the area. You know, I love it when the West wants to be like, look, in China, they're wearing masks, they can't breathe because of all the factory emissions. We're dropping bombs on people. We're killing people and destroying the environment at the same time. We're no different. We're really no different. Also, South Korea has that same problem. So it happens when you centralize all the industrial sectors in one part of, in like just a couple parts of the world. You know, the air quality goes down. Yeah, it's so disturbing to know that my future is uncertain in terms of like the climate, in terms of if the U.S. will even still exist, by the way, because of what we're doing right now, what we've been doing for decades. I mean, what are the odds that, what are the odds that another country just comes in and wipes this country off the map? We are the ultimate Grim Reapers. We bring death and destruction no matter where we go. No matter where. If I was a foreigner and I saw an American flag get planted near my home, I'd be shitting my pants. We really do bring death everywhere we go. Just a path of bodies. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the United States of America from, the 1780s when our Constitution was written to now, if we have killed more people than Hitler did in the Holocaust. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the true number at this point. Because of all the death and destruction we've brought upon abroad, even domestically with the native population. Think of all the banana republics we've created. Think of all the wars we fought to advance the Monroe Doctrine. The Spanish-American War and the Korean War and the Vietnam War. All the banana republics, like I just said. Think of all of the people we've murdered through conquest at this point. So, here's a little palate cleanser. Here's the news accidentally showing a missile landing in Tel Aviv. Oh my god. Hold on. Yeah, here's a missile landing in Tel Aviv.
I think that's what the calculation now is. Regime preservation. Could you get a more pragmatic figure presiding over this?
What's interesting is that they mostly target military targets. Iran does. Meanwhile, you've got Israel bombing schools with the U.S. Us throwing a Tomahawk missile at an elementary school, and then Trump trying to blame it on Iran. Meanwhile, we're one of the only countries on Earth with Tomahawk missiles. Let me see if I can find footage of this recent attack. was a weird ending. I believe I've seen an extended version of this video where a missile actually does make contact with the ground. I'm surprised it doesn't show that on here. So yeah, Israel has used this as an excuse to attack Beirut, as if they needed one. I mean, they've been doing that anyways. Yeah. This is one of the largest strikes on Israel during the war so far. Do I cheer on? Oh yeah, here you go. There's another angle. I don't cheer on war because I think it's devastating for everyone involved. But I have to say that, you know, Israel getting retaliation from the people that they've been slaughtering for decades now. You know, it's like the Israeli government. It's the Israeli government reaping what it's sown. And by the way, the reason why you heard the alert so late is because Iran has destroyed all the radars in the region. So, you know, they're not going to see things coming as fast as they normally would. There'd be a bigger delay in that case. Oh my God. There was an interview with Anthony Blinken. Oh, who wants to hear what that warmongering genocider has to say? He's running point for Biden, being like, Biden would have never stood with this Iran war. I don't think Biden knows there's a war right now. Earlier this week, the U.S. attacked a desalination plant near the Strait of Hormuz. And then here's my final piece, and I said this last week. I find it quite disturbing how Israel and the United States have so arrogantly thought that they could just interject Israeli propaganda into you know, into the TVs of Iranian citizens, and that the Iranian citizens will be like, yeah, we can listen to this. We'll listen to this. Yeah, we'll listen to what Netanyahu has to say. Here you go.
וביחס למה שנעשה בהמשך באיראן, יש לנו תוכנית סדורה עם הרבה הפתעות. לערער את המשטר, לאפשר שינוי. יש לנו עוד הרבה מטרות, ולא אפרט אותן כאן. אבל לפעילי משמרות המהפכה, אלה שרודים בעם האיראני ברחובות, אומר לכם רק זאת. גם אתם על הכוונת. מי שיניח את נשקו, לא יעונה לו כל רע. מי שלא יעשה זאת, דמו בראשו. ולעם האיראני אני אומר, אני מדבר איתכם ועבורכם כבר עשרות שנים. רגע האמת מתקרב, כי איננו מבקשים לחלק את איראן. אנחנו מבקשים לשחרר את איראן, לשחרר אותה מעול העריצות ולחיות עימה בשלום. אבל בסופו של יום, השחרור מעול העריצות, השחרור הזה יהיה תלוי בכם, בני העם האיראני האמיץ ולמוד הסבל. אני מאמין שאם תתייצבו ברגע האמת, לא ירחק היום שבו ישראל ואיראן תחזורנה להיות ידידות אמיצות.
So, remember how there were mass protests in Iran demanding regime change? They wanted to overthrow the government for a more liberal, free-thinking, liberating society. Remember that? And all of the Republicans were like, this is why we need to go and blow up Tehran. This is why we need to go up in there and kill the supreme leader for them, brother, and then install our own puppet leader to lead them. That's what we need to do. From what I've been reading, the general consensus now in Iran is that a lot of those people who were on board with, you know, the U.S. going in and helping them overthrow the government, a lot of those people have now backed away because they see their family members celebrating while the U.S. is killing their neighbors in Iran. You know, they've seen the untold death and destruction of the thousands of Iranians that have died so far in the war and thought, maybe this isn't worth it, because they are just doing what our own government was already doing, but instead of it being our government, it's someone else's. I've seen some people say stuff like, it'd be easier to just change the government from within at this point. That they've kind of lost hope in overthrowing the government because, you know, they killed the supreme leader and nothing changed. They now have a new supreme leader, his son, who seems to be far more out there, a bit more radically thinking, and much more what seems like a little bit more hesitant to negotiate with Western forces. So they've literally gotten rid of one guy and accidentally replaced him with someone worse. You know, Israel is so stupid, man. They're too war horny. They're war hungry. They're war horny. That, like any horny guy, they're not thinking with their head. They're thinking with their war dick. And so they just blind go in and they go, this will, I'm trying to do like a Netanyahu thing. Well, let's see, this will, topple the government, and then we can go in and install our own Shah. And then like they take out the Ayatollah and nothing changes. It's the same regime. It's still the IRGC. They have a new supreme leader now. Think about this as an American. We keep talking about Middle Eastern wars and politics. As an American, in what way does this affect you? Seriously, in what way is this affecting you? Like, why do you need to go and fight Iran? Why do you think the U.S. needs to do that? Because it's not like Iran's going to hurt you. They don't even have the weaponry capable of reaching the mainland U.S. So, do we even have a foot in the game, or is this all Israel's war that we are spending billions of dollars on so far? And remember, folks, a mother wants to get her kids a couple cookies with SNAP benefits. Oh, heresy. We should launch a multi-million-dollar investigation into that. The federal government wants to launch an unsanctioned, unapproved by Congress illegal war on Iran for another country and spend billions in the process doing so. No problem with that. There's no issue with that. What's the problem, guys? Israel's our greatest ally. So, yeah, Israel threatening Iran with a major surprise. What are they going to tactical nuke Iran? Here's a video of Trump being grilled by a New York Times reporter because he claimed that we hit he claims that Iran hit their own elementary school with a Tomahawk missile. And remember, we're the only ones with Tomahawk missiles. And so this New York Times reporter asks him why he says that.
President, you just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's
the President of the United States saying, I just didn't know enough about it, and so I made this erroneous bullshit claim that the Iranian government blew up their own elementary school.
Something that I was told is under investigation, but Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
President, you just suggested that
He's the only one in the administration saying that, by the way. You might be wondering, why is Trump even doing this? Let's recap the year so far. We have invaded Venezuela, kidnapped their leader. We have, he has backed up the ICE actions that have been protested. He has thought about invading Greenland. So listen to this. Invasion of Venezuela, capturing Maduro, thinking about and threatening to invade Greenland, starting another Middle Eastern war with Iran. Why are we doing this? In April, are we going to go fucking invade The Hague? Is April going to be send ground troops to Ukraine to fight Ukraine? What's next? May, we're going to go start a mainland war with China? What is our next move here? My theory, and it seems to be shared amongst a lot of people, is that Trump knows at this point that he's going to die. Because he has had a major behavioral change. He's lost all the flair that he used to have. He's lost a lot of the energy he used to have. He sounds more and more like Joe Biden every day. And I think he got some kind of prognosis from his doctor that he's going to die soon. Or he's going to be put into a state where he's incapacitated and has to step down. And so I think he's trying to cement his legacy now. And, he's just trying to get ahead of it. He's trying to be the president that did it all. The president that could take out Iran. President that could bring down the Maduro regime in Venezuela. The president that captured Greenland for the United States. Right now, him and Lindsey Graham are even floating the idea of doing regime change in Cuba. He wants to be that's probably the April thing, is we're going to invade Cuba. He wants to be the president that does it all in his second term and absolutely destabilizes the planet because he doesn't care. And ironically, he would go down as the president that destroyed America as a result. History would remember him as an overzealous president that did way too much and bit off way more than he could chew and led to the death of the America we know it as right now. He will be the guy that leads us down that path if we keep going the way that we've been going. Here's Pete Hegseth's thoughts. Saying he's going to basically murder Iranians. Why is there no audio on this shit? Oh, it changed my link. Never mind. No Hegseth clip for you guys. It changed my link. And I don't have my clip to Hegseth saying that. But it was psychotic. He said the only ones who need to be worried right now are Iranians who think they're going to live. That sounds like a stable thing for a guy to say. Here's Donald Trump calling Congress anti-Semitic.
President of the United States, I will always support Jewish Americans, and I will always be a friend and a champion to the Jewish people. I have been. And I will say, if you go back 10, 12, 15 years ago at the most, the strongest lobby in Washington was the Jewish lobby. It was Israel. That's no longer true. You have to be very careful. You have a Congress in particular which is becoming anti-Semitic. You have AOC +3. You have
a Congress that still nearly unanimously approves funding for Israel, by the way. That's the only part of the clip I wanted to show you because the rest was really boring, but yeah, a Congress who's anti-Semitic that overwhelmingly bipartisanly sends unconditional aid to Israel. all the time. All the time. What more does AIPAC want? What more do they want? Congress already goes through with everything that Trump wants when it comes to Israel. Dude, even the Democrats are like, yeah, we need this war. It's for Israel, dog. We need this war. John Fetterman's like the biggest Israel dick writer of all time. John Fetterman is on a constant ride of that Israeli dick. Here's what Trump told Dana Bash on CNN on the 7th.
Had Delcy Rodriguez, and he said she's doing a very good job. I said, well, would you be okay with a religious leader in Iran? And he said the answer is yes. It doesn't necessarily have to be a democratic leader in Iran. It just has to be somebody who treats the U.S. and Israel fairly, as well as people in the had Delcy Rodriguez, and he said,
where am I? Hold on. Technical error here, folks. Oh, never mind. That was the right clip. Am I stupid? God. Technical errors in my brain. Fucking idiot. Yeah. He told her that the liberation of the Iranian people is not the goal of the war. So here's Caroline Leavitt. Fucking hardest job in the world. You got to give her props here. This has to be the most difficult job on earth, is defending this administration.
Inherited the worst affordability crisis in our nation's history from Joe Biden, and look at the progress he has made in the course of the past year. Now,
He inherited an affordability crisis from Biden. Meanwhile, we've got footage of Tehran blowing up on the other side. And now gas prices are through the roof. Gas prices are through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. I don't even know what to say. Here's Caroline Leavitt saying she's not going to rule out a draft. A draft, dude. The draft. Do we not remember why we stopped doing the draft? Does the term fragging ring a bell? The whole reason we stopped doing the draft is because people who had been drafted were made to go on these missions. I forgot what they called them. Search and destroy missions, where they would go to these villages and be told by their commanding officer, oh, we're going here to like kill Viet Cong. Then they would get there and start shooting all the villagers and blowing up the village, just to find out it was just a village full of people. And the commander just wanted them to do that so he could start rising up the ranks. And people, there's a reason why PTSD soared after the Vietnam War. People were seeing this and being like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. They keep putting our lives at risk like this for their valor. And so people started fragging their commanders. There were internal military newspapers calling out people by name that should be the next targets. People started literally killing their commanders in secret. And no one would go to jail for it because no one could figure out who did it. That's the reason why we stopped doing the draft, because they figured that if the volunteer military force, that they figured that if it was all volunteers, it'd be people who want to be there, who are fighting those wars because they want to, not people who are being forced to be there. So that's why they stopped doing the draft, because it was literally getting commanders shot and blown up by frag grenades. That's where the term fragging comes from. So the fact that she's even considering this is insane.
Out there are worried
Not
that
her,
we're
but
going to have
Trump.
a draft, that they're going to
She's
see their
defending
sons get in and daughters get involved in this. What do you want to say about the president's plans for troops on the ground? As we know, it's been largely an air campaign up until now.
It has been, and it will continue to be, and President Trump wisely does not remove options off of the table. I know a lot of politicians like to do that quickly, but the president, as commander-in-chief, wants to continue to assess the success of this military operation. It's not part of the current plan right now, but the president, again, wisely keeps his options on the table.
Mothers out.
So the draft option is on the table. Y'all got my mom out here commenting on TikToks, by the way, saying you will not send my son to war. Thanks. This combined with all of the talk about, oh, you know, there's gonna be more deaths, you're gonna die, it's inevitable. I mean, why are people still standing for this? Why are people still okay with this? He's going to draft your sons and daughters, sons mostly, and they're going to go and die for Israel, for an Israeli conquest. You know, this isn't like the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan. This is a war for Israel specifically, out in the open. This is a war for Israel. The Iraq War was because oil executives wanted to make a big profit. They wanted control over Iraq's oil. That's why they did it. Greed. The war in Afghanistan is because we needed an excuse to go to war with a Middle Eastern country with the suspicion that Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden might be there. Completely ignoring Saudi Arabia, by the way. Even though bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia. And then eventually bin Laden wasn't even found in any of those countries. But it's not like we knew that at the time. But it would have been safer to assume he was in Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia's our friends, yada, yada. These aren't the same types of wars. Iran is simply a war that Israel wants, because Israel wants to destroy Iran. You know, the U.S. wouldn't mind a regime change. It definitely make getting stuff done in the region easier. It would take out another ally of the Russians and Chinese, which is obviously the State Department's goal. But Israel doesn't want that. Israel wants to wipe it off the map and probably claim it for itself. My ultimate thoughts is that I think if given the chance, Israel would kill everybody in the Middle East and take all those countries for themselves, including the ones that are our allies, the Gulf states. So, yeah, I mean, those are the ultimate goals of the war. It's not like this isn't your daddy's George W. Bush invasion of Iraq type of war. This is your newfangled Iran war for Israel.
Situation was very quickly approaching.
Oh yeah, here's Trump blaming everyone but himself for this.
The point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us. And
just pinning it all on his cabinet. That actually shows he might have like a micron of fear. Like a micron of fear. That something might happen to him. So, you know, there's been a lot of stuff as a result of this war. Here's a photo of them taking that apart in South Korea. Which, I mean, North Korea, doors open. I'm just kidding. But, you know, what's next? What is next? Well, probably us attempting to invade Cuba. according to Lindsey Graham.
I'm not.
Lindsey Graham went on Fox News. Dude, this lady's at the center of everything, man. God bless. She gets caught up in fucking everything, huh? All of these clips. He's indicating now that, we're about to do some regime change in Cuba.
I mean, I'm not looking for a fair fight. If we get in a fight, I want to win it. I want to win it quick. I'm in Miami. You see this hat? Free Cuba.
This is the most tacky shit I've ever seen in my life. This dude's such a fucking loser. He's such a fucking loser. You see that? Free Cuba. You see that? As the senator from South Carolina, why do you give a fuck? Shouldn't this be like the Florida senators, talking points? Why is Lindsey Graham at the center of everything with this shit? What kind of power do they hold over Lindsey Graham? He didn't used to be this, nuts and balls deep in the Trump administration.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
The liberation of Cuba is upon us. It's just a matter of time now. You see this hat? Make Iran great. President Trump said the only way to make Iran great is for the people to take over. We're marching through the world. We're cleaning out the bad guys. We're going to have relationships with new people that will make us prosperous and safe. I've never seen anybody like it. This is Ronald Reagan plus. Donald Trump is resetting the world.
Ronald Reagan plus. Dude, this is our glorious leader Kim Jong-un level praise. Good Lord. Openly saying we want people that will actually give us what we want in different regions. Calling him Ronald Reagan plus. Oh my God. Kiss him already.
Like it. This is Ronald Reagan plus. Donald Trump is resetting the world in a way nobody could have dreamed of a year ago. He is the greatest commander-in-chief of all time. Our military is the best of all time. Iran is going down, and Cuba is next.
All right. Well, we'll be watching what's next on Cuba. For sure, got a lot of hats there.
Brother. I don't know if it's possible for him to ride that D harder. You might have ridden it to completion, bro. Trump's probably sitting in the Oval Office like, oh, folks, nobody's ever seen a man come like this before. Just from this alone. He probably saw this on Fox News and just instantly just instantly shot a rope from the White House to the fucking Pentagon. Dude, I don't know how you meat ride harder than this. That was a crazy string of words he put together.
Time, our military greatest commander-in-chief of all time.
Greatest commander-in-chief of all time? If we had to give our honest opinion, who do we think is the actual greatest commander-in-chief of all time? I guess a case could be made for FDR because of World War II. Yeah. I guess you could maybe make that argument. I don't know. Maybe Abraham Lincoln's up there. But Abraham Lincoln was really throwing the bag at the beginning of the Civil War. We were losing pretty bad, like up until the last couple of years of the Civil War. So I guess FDR would be my pick. I don't know. I don't know how involved FDR was in the campaigns we were running in the European and Pacific theaters. But I would probably argue FDR. I mean, but those are also like defensive moves, the Civil War being a reaction to the South seceding, World War II's American involvement being a reaction to Pearl Harbor. I feel like maybe FDR is our best commander-in-chief of all time. Because all Trump has done is just start shit with other fucking countries. He's just starting shit. He's not the best commander-in-chief of all time. I mean, fuck, we're like damn near losing the Iran war. You know? I don't know. That's such a crazy statement.
Our military is the best of all time.
See, but that statement only really matters if you account for the fact that we have, like, you know, quintuple the military budget of the next country in the list. So, like, yeah, of course, a bunch of idiots with billion-dollar weapons are going to be a better military than a bunch of people that have, like, normal weapons.
Iran is going down, and Cuba is next.
Ugh, imperialist pig. There, I just wanted to analyze that whole string of words. You know, dick riding imperialist pig. It looks like Cuba's next. So, there's one last bit I want to mention. And it's that the FBI claims to California that Iran is planning an attack on the West Coast in California.
Possible Iranian drone attacks on our homeland. A new alert reviewed by ABC News revealing Iran's aspirations to conduct a surprise attack specifically against unspecified targets in California. The FBI saying it's warned police departments across the Golden State now of strikes by unmanned aerial vehicles or drones as tensions rise in the Middle East. Let's get straight to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Kontersky. Aaron, what are you learning?
This story is simply to drum up support for the war in Iran. According to the articles on this issue, the FBI was simply giving a cautionary warning with no real indication that Iran was actually planning any kind of attack on California, or that it could even successfully launch an attack on California. So this is all just to inflame you into thinking that there's an actual threat and to support the war to take them out. Yeah, I think this is probably them, unfortunately, setting us up for a false flag attack. Or just trying to fearmonger us. I have one last thing about the Iran war, and then we're going to move on to other stuff. Actually, I have a couple more things. So that protester that got his arm broken last week is out of jail, and he's free. Obviously, he has a broken arm, but he is free. He's with his family again. He gave some words, but then on the 6th, another veteran decided to protest the war in Iran.
Stop lying to the American people. Immediately. You will stop and cease the war in Gaza.
You see, they're a lot more gentle with this guy. I think they were trying to avoid another media frenzy about the fact that a sitting U.S. senator and 3 Capitol police officers broke a Marine veteran's arm for the simple act of speaking out against the war in Iran.
Stop nothing. You will stop disruption, and you will not be seen by this committee again. Stop the genocide in Gaza.
Why were you arrested?
I want them to stop the genocide in Gaza and proceed to stop lying to the American people, because they've been doing it for too long. They've been funding the genocide. Israel.
All right, you stop following. We're taking him down the loading dock.
Well, fucking loser. We're taking him down to the loading dock. Goated, man. We need more people like that. More. Bring on more. All right. Palate cleanser for the Iran war talk. A big palate cleanser. Alex Jones said on his show one of the most bizarre things I've heard in a long time.
Trump's our wife.
I don't even know if I can play it because of the music. Shit. I don't know if I can play it. Man, I was so excited to listen to this with you guys. Yeah, I can't because he's got that fucking song in the background. Fuck. Damn it, dude. It's such a funny video where he talks about, you know, fucking Netanyahu and Trump and Lindsey Graham face fucking each other. Oh my god. It's such a good video. You gotta go watch it. Alright. Few more things, and then I guess I'm gonna call it after that. But bit of a lightning round. It turns out the Pentagon spent $93 billion in 1 month on lobster tail, king crab, ribeye steaks, and fruit basket stands. Folks, in a country where we are crying and bitching about a mother buying her kids Oreos with SNAP benefits, or them buying a steak with SNAP benefits, why are we allowing the Pentagon to spend billions on luxury food and like food parties for the Pentagon? How does feeding the Pentagon cost $93 billion is what I want to know. Make it make sense, folks. Trump is throwing a big baby fit, saying he won't sign any new bills until the SAVE Act is passed. The SAVE Act being the bill that will reform voting on a federal level, requiring multiple forms of ID in order to register to vote, and then requiring a voter ID to vote. Effectively disenfranchising a large chunk of the, lower part of the tax bracket of the population.
They're doing everything possible because they know if we get this, they probably won't win an election for 50 years, okay? And maybe longer. And they're going to fight like hell.
Just saying the quiet part out loud. If we don't pass this, we won't win another election for 50 years. God, I wonder who is voting in those elections. That has you all scared, man. Trump wants to appoint Ted Cruz to the Supreme Court. Why? Why in the world would you want Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court? Lindsey Graham said if you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody would convict you. Al Franken said, I like Ted Cruz more than any of my other colleagues like Ted Cruz, and I hate Ted Cruz. The former chief of staff for the senator said, the reason people take an instant dislike to Ted Cruz, it saves time. Jeez, man. It sounds like Ted Cruz doesn't even want it, you know. Yeah, it sounds like Ted Cruz doesn't even want it. I think he's already turned it down. Because he wouldn't be able to go on his... No, he'd still be able to go on Cancun trips. Look at Clarence Thomas. He goes on luxury trips all the time. A new Epstein file released. See if it's even still up. Oh, holy crap. They redacted the shit out of it, though. Dang, they redacted the fuck out of this file. It was unredacted. I'm a little surprised here. Let me see if it was actually, because I downloaded it. No, it was always like this. Okay. Whew. This basically details Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein sexually abusing a minor. It's one of the most damning documents we've seen in a while. This was an interview taken, I believe, 3 days before Epstein was found dead in his cell. This is one of the more disturbing files. And this file came out after it was reported that Trump apparently refused to do a certain military action in Iran for Israel. It's a bit of a weird timing there for the DOJ to drop that. I wonder if we have just another Jonathan Pollard situation in the DOJ. Let's see. They're saying that using the term Epstein class, in a memo they said using the term Epstein class is Iranian propaganda. So that's where we've gotten, folks. The people who are most implicated in the Epstein files are now saying it's Iranian propaganda to say that. We're just using different things to distract people from other things at this point. In a major blow to antitrust, the federal government is allowing the Paramount Warner Brothers merger to go through. And with that happening, it's expected that the CBS News chief, Barry Weiss, that Zionist conservative, is expected to be a major player in running CNN. Now David Ellison will own Paramount, Warner Brothers, and Discovery. 3 major media empires. That is horrifying. That is just a major media conglomerate. With unchecked power. I mean, that's so gross. And I sincerely hope that the next presidential administration, sues the shit out of them and breaks up the company. But 2, I hope they bring back Lena Khan. Because she was the reason why this deal was being blocked for so long. She was the reason why something like this couldn't happen, basically, is what I'm saying. This deal didn't exist at the time, but she would have prevented this from happening. A Stop Cop City protester's information was unmasked to the FBI. He was anonymous, and Proton Mail gave his information to another country's government, and then the FBI, the Swiss government, and the FBI then got that information turned over to them by the Swiss government. It's a good job, Proton Mail. So it seems that even Proton Mail, who's supposed to be a decentralized mail service that protects your privacy, will just give your information to another country's government, which will then transfer that information to the U.S. government. So, awesome. Why they gave it to the Swiss government, I'm not really too sure on. I'd have to read more of the story, but very bizarre. In New York City news, Mom Donnie is having a pretty good run. In the month of February, New York City reported its lowest levels of shooting victims, and murders ever recorded for the first 2 months of the year. Major crime is down nearly 8% citywide, and burglary hit a record low. And retail theft dropped 25%. Wow. Is no one going to talk about the big snowball war, though? That should have skyrocketed crime rates, am I right, folks? The Great Snowball War. A candidate for California governor, who I believe is a billionaire, by the way, refused to commit to calling what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide.
What I think is this. I think that this Israeli government has been trying to take over the entire country and expel the Palestinians and take over the whole thing, kit and caboodle. And that's what they've been doing for a long time.
Kit and caboodle? Why can't people like this just say things with their chest? Why are they so afraid? Say Israel wants to glass the whole region and genocide the people there, and then take the land for themselves and rebuild it for themselves. Just say it with your chest. They want to take over the whole thing, kit and caboodle. Huh?
And that's what they've been doing for a long time. It's absolutely wrong. There's no question there. And they're willing to commit war crimes to do it. That's what I think. And that's been going on for a long time.
So you don't want to make you're not committing to the term genocide.
I don't actually, I think, you tell me if this is what it means, because it's sort of like socialism, if you excuse my saying so.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think they're trying to kill all the Palestinians? No.
No,
I think I don't. I think they're trying to expel the Palestinians from the country, that they're trying to have one state.
That would be genocidal intent.
I don't know what that is, but that's what they're trying to do.
He doesn't know, as a major candidate for California governor, he doesn't know what genocide is. He doesn't know what genocidal intent is. Seriously? Even if you expel the Palestinians, you don't kill all of them. That's still genocide. You've now ripped them from their cultural lands, expelled them somewhere else. You know, this is what we did to the natives, the Native American genocide on this continent. You know, Andrew Jackson famously signed the Indian Removal Act, which led to the Trail of Tears, where hundreds of thousands, I don't know about hundreds, I think it was hundreds of thousands of Native Americans were expelled from Georgia to modern day Oklahoma, which at the time was considered Indian territory. You know, considered suitable land for them, even though there was no land to grow crops on that they were used to growing. The journey there was insanely deadly and killed thousands through disease, famine, simply being murdered. And even though they didn't all die, it's still considered genocidal because you've ripped them from their land, forced them somewhere else, erased their culture from the area. You know what culture we still have that remains from the Native Americans in the state of Georgia is naming shit after what they used to call things. We take something that they used to call it, we redo the spelling a little bit, and then we apply it to our thing. That's what we do. You ever heard the name Macintosh? You know, that's a native name. That's the name of the native general that signed over all of this land to the Americans, and they killed him for it. But we name a shitload of stuff Macintosh here. You know, that's just what we do. That would be considered genocidal, is wiping the natives off this land. Even though we didn't kill all of them in that one instance, that incident alone would be considered genocidal because we expelled them from the land. We erased them from the area.
That is a genocidal intent,
they're clearly trying to take over the West Bank. They're clearly trying to take over Gaza. They're willing to, go to extreme merciless lengths in order to do.
I mean, I am glad that, unlike Gavin Newsom, this guy is willing to at least say these things. But somebody needs to talk to him. Not even somebody. Open a dictionary, dog. Do your research. Come on. Do your research. Open a book about this topic and learn what genocide is. Go look up the definition of it. Go look up the history of the coining of the term. Go look up what is constituted as a genocide over the course of history, over the course of modern history. Go educate yourself, dude. Why are you coming on camera and being an ignoramus, if we wanted to use his type of terminology? Being a dumbass on camera and saying all these good things and then going, oh, I actually don't know what a genocide is. What?
Do that. Hassan, that's what there's a history that's 10 years of doing that.
Well, it's longer than 10 years.
Well, whatever. Yeah.
Started off with ethnic cleansing in 1948.
But that's what's going on. I don't know I honestly don't know what genocide means, but what I do know is they are trying to end up controlling the whole state, period.
Feels like he cares a little bit more about land and less about the people living there. You know, like if you asked him if he's a one-stater or a two-stater, he'd probably be a two-stater and say that the Palestinians should have sovereignty over the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, as opposed to they should be allowed to return home and that it should be a one state where everyone lives there and they all have civil rights, like equal civil rights. You know what I mean? It sounds like he's more in the camp of they should just be allowed to keep their land and be unbothered. You know, I mean, that would definitely be better than the genocide going on right now, but definitely a strange way to frame it as a billionaire running for California governor. But I think, you know, while he does have a better stance on this than Gavin Newsom, definitely needs to clean up those optics, man. Definitely need to clean that shit up. They'll eat you alive for that. All right. And folks, that calls it for this episode. I had a Graham Plattner clip I wanted to show, but save it for the next episode. Hopefully I don't talk about the war as much in the next episode. I'm so tired. Unless there's any like crazy development, I'm not going to be going like beat by beat on it like I have been the last 2 episodes. I'm going to be a little bit more selective about what I say about the the war in Iran. So, anywho, if you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod. If you want to listen to this podcast audio only, you can go to Apple Podcasts, the Samsung Fridge with Bespoke AI, I guess. I don't really know how it works anymore. You can go to like Amazon, I guess, and listen to this. I don't know. It's on a bunch of different podcast platforms. You can even get the RSS link and add it to your own podcasting platform if we're not already on it somehow. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I'll see you all next week. Peace.